Right, everybody, thank you very much for joining me today. So, you're very welcome to join us for our 6-week Lockdown Lunch and Learn webinar programme. We've got a series of webinars happening over the course of the next 6 weeks. You're very welcome to join us across all 6 weeks. You will need to register individually for each one. All the details are on our blog post, which can be found at blog.oxfordcollegeofmarketing.com. Today we're looking at building an effective content strategy. If I turn slightly to the right during this, it's because that's where the slides are. I've got two screens going on. So if I do look, I'm not looking at you directly into the camera. It's because I've slightly got, I've got the slides to my left. If you have questions we move through, as I say, you are automatically muted right now, but at the end of today's session, we will have a Q&A. So if you do want to unmute yourselves to ask a question at the end, that's fine. As we move through, you can always type into the chat area and I will do my best to answer the questions as they come through. But if you can try and wait towards the end, that would be fantastic. Okay. So just a little bit about me as we kick off. My name's Barrington. As you can see, the picture doesn't quite look like me anymore. I had a slight change in hair colour. But I've got 18 years experience in leading digital marketing projects and strategy across a range of different clients from B2B and B2C. Some of my clients are listed there on the slides, including Vodafone, Sage. I've worked with a company called Flow, who are like the BT of the Caribbean. And also I've worked with Sainsbury's, and I'm currently working with a few clients, including the Oxford College of Marketing, and also some smaller local organisations as well. I also have worked with the Oxford College of Marketing for over 12 years now. I've been teaching and supporting students with their qualifications. And I also develop training programmes for organisations as well as for the college too. Also, just want to tell you a little bit about the Oxford College of Marketing while we're here. I know some of you are already students with the Oxford College of Marketing, but some of you might not be and not know anything about us. We've got over 20 years experience in delivering marketing and digital marketing, sales and project management courses. We deliver courses from all the acronyms you can see there. So the Chartered Institute of Marketing, Institute for Sales and Marketing, the APS, which is the Association for Professional Sales, and also the Association for Project Management too. We also have our own accredited qualifications. We have over 2,000 students that study with us each year, and we gain 98% plus pass rates. And that actually was our most recent pass rate for the recent Chartered Institute of Marketing Examination Board. We do have 19 global study centres as well, and an extensive online learning programme. We're also, obviously with times that are changing, we've launched a virtual classes programme as well, which is starting next month. So let's start thinking about content marketing first of all. So as the slide suggests, content marketing is the strategic marketing approach of creating, distributing valuable and relevant as well as consistent content to attract and acquire a clearly defined audience with the objective of driving profitable customer action. So in short, rather than pitching your products or services, you're delivering information to your customers that will make the buyer more informed and therefore will want to do business with you, with the hope that we can then get them to buy from us ultimately and also make them more loyal. But if we look at that definition again here, those two words, relevant and valuable, they're really, really important, because that's the difference between content marketing and probably some of the informational promotional rubbish you get from other organisations that are simply trying to sell you something. Companies send us information all the time, and that most of the time actually it's not relevant and it's not valuable. So in order for our content efforts to be successful, it needs to be relevant and it needs to be valuable, and that's what needs to sit at the heart of your content strategy that you put together. I just also thought it's important, before we start talking about the nuts and bolts of the effectiveness of or how to build an effective content strategy, that we think about just some of the benefits of content marketing and putting together that content strategy as well. Now, according to the Content Marketing Institute, there are three key benefits for an organisation implementing a content marketing strategy and undertaking content marketing. Firstly, increase sales. So through driving demand for products and services. And we do that by first creating people who are essentially subscribed to us or interested in us. So subscription could be in the form of, I don't know, an email newsletter or being a follower on a social media. And by being subscribers and interested in our brand, they will then hopefully convert to being customers. The second benefit there, cost saving. So by using the power of, an opt-in audience, so we're not just talking about email, as I say, we could be talking about those opted into following us on social media as well and other areas, but the power of having that opt-in and engaged audience means that actually, we can potentially deliver more effective performance and better performance for our business activities as well. We can also generate more valuable customers as well. So this, our benefit for content marketing is about driving loyalty and creating loyalty as well. So it isn't just about driving sales, but it's how we can create more loyal and retained customers. And this is through content supporting our ability to upsell and cross-sell to our customers too. But content marketing really does form such an important part of marketing now, and it supports all of the other kind of marketing tactics that we undertake. So from social media marketing, so, as you know, as marketers, content marketing is so important to our social media efforts. SEO, obviously we're rewarded by publishing regular and quality content on our website from search engines. PR, again, content marketing is a very important part of PR because the stories shared by organisations and third parties, these are all content as well. And similarly, things like pay-per-click, so paid search marketing, that requires great content as well to convert. So content marketing is so important across all of our marketing activities, and this is why we need to develop a strategy for it. So why do we need a content strategy? A content strategy, as we said before, content marketing is the creation, publishing and distribution of content. But a content strategy, on the other hand, is really the foundation on which all of our the success of our content marketing is going to be built. So we kind of think about a content strategy like a map. And our content marketing is the journey towards our brand success. But content strategy is actually the blueprint that directs us towards that success. So our content strategy will answer why we are publishing that content. It's going to determine who we're actually going to reach with this content as well. And it also details what content we're going to develop and how it's going to be created, as well as how we're going to measure success. So it's kind of like with any other marketing plan or any other marketing strategy. Without a content strategy, our content marketing efforts are directionless and they probably aren't going to help us achieve our goals. Now, this is one of my favorite frameworks, actually, and I use this a lot with my clients, this content marketing strategy framework, which is from the Content Marketing Institute. It's 5 very basic steps, which we're going to look at throughout the rest of today's presentation. It's goals, purpose and goals, audiences, stories, processes, measurement. So 5-step process essentially to building your content strategy and building that effective content strategy for your business. So the first stage we're going to look at in this strategy is purpose. Now, too often I see clients and organizations undertaking content marketing as kind of a standalone activity and on the fly kind of the manager's going, oh, we should write a blog post about this. And actually there's no wider consideration for the purpose of that content or how it aligns with business goals. And so again, going back to our definition about that content, about content marketing in general, it's not likely to be relevant and it might not necessarily be valuable to the business in supporting their goals. And there's really no business case, therefore, for that piece of content's existence. So our content strategy needs to start with an eye essentially on the bottom line business goals. So the only reason your business should really be undertaking any form of content marketing if it can be used to ultimately achieve those goals. And therefore, there's a reason why that piece of content exists. And as we move through today and move through this strategy framework, you'll kind of see how everything builds, each stage builds on each other. We also need to think in terms of purpose about defining what our audience and what we want our audience to do once they've consumed that content. And again, that will tie into our wider content goals. And defining our goals needs to start with detailing the value that we want the content to create for the business. So one way to think about this is perhaps thinking about maybe areas that the business is struggling right now. So that could be generating awareness. It could be getting our audience to engage with us. It could be generating traffic to our website. It could be generating leads, or it could be about generating or helping to support customer loyalty. So once we've got that kind of primary purpose and the reason that our content exists, and we've thought about our wider organisation goals, we then need to think about the specific goals we want or expect our content to achieve. And we can think about these in terms of three key goals: campaign goals, cost-saving goals, and business growth goals. Our campaign goals, as I'm sure you're very aware as marketers, these are going to be our sales goals. And we can utilize content marketing to help accelerate achieving those sales goals. And so content can really support our campaign goals because our prospects that subscribe perhaps to the content that we have, whether that's, I don't know, a white paper or a webinar like you're attending now, we can turn those subscribers, those leads, into people who purchase, but also purchase more, and also might go through that sales funnel more quickly because they're engaged with us. The second of our key goals that we can think about and our content marketing can deliver on is cost-saving goals. So using content to deliver better performance from other business and marketing activities. So we could use our data that we've collected on our audience to better understand perhaps our prospects and which are more likely to therefore buy from us in the future. So using it almost as a qualification criteria. That could save our sales team time and effort. But also from a B2C perspective, we can use that information and data to more efficiently target our audiences through paid advertising campaigns. And finally, business growth goals. So content can also drive overall business growth. So that could be through perhaps driving new revenue streams. So good examples here are organisations that maybe monetize events and event-related content by offering sponsorship opportunities. So once we've identified our purpose and we've identified our goals, like any marketing strategy we put together, we need to know and understand our audience to ensure all of our activities and all of, therefore, our content is designed to meet their needs. So this is focusing on who our audience are that we're actually creating this content for, and we're thinking about how that content's going to benefit them. And the first stage in all of this, and again, some of you who are working in marketing right now would have come across personas before. And creating personas is a really important part of putting together an effective content strategy, because we need to know who we're actually targeting with our content. And personas depict that static picture of an organisation's ideal buyer. It will depict their habits, their needs, their behaviours. It will look at some of their demographic information, which you can see here with Kayla, who's a planner. She's aged 25 to 34, and also details what she earns, and also looks at some of, aside from her main demographics, it then starts looking at her motivations and some of her actual needs as well. So we think about their goals, their challenges, notice on there, it's their pain points as well. So what problems do they actually have? Pain points are so important with content marketing. I do a lot of work with my clients on this. We identify the key pain points that our audiences have in their buying journey to then create content that matches those pain points. So for example, suggesting, giving them information to help them solve that pain point, but also at the same time putting in how the organisation itself can help support and solve that pain point too. So through creating these specific personas, we can then ensure we're creating the right content that's relevant to our customer needs. So if we're looking at Kayla here, we can understand what her motivations are, what her needs are, and develop content that matches those, helps her provides relevant information to help her then engage with us, and then hopefully that will build a relationship which we can then use to hopefully convert ultimately into a sale. One thing I think we need to think about right now is that audiences needs change over time, and so we do regularly need to evaluate both our audiences and their needs, and obviously now more so than ever we need to be thinking about that too. I'll talk a bit more about that in a second, but just before I do, we need to make sure, which I kind of touched upon already, that we understand our audience's customer journey. And this here is just a very simplistic customer journey that I've put on this slide: awareness, consideration, and decision. We're just thinking across, well, we're thinking what the audience is doing from awareness, consideration, and decision, because they're going to need different content depending on what stage in that journey they're at. So if we think here about a small business who's identified perhaps a problem that they need to regularly post on social media to support their business. This is a very simplistic example for you. But at the awareness stage, what the buyer is trying to do is better frame their issue and understand what the options might be available. So at this stage, for someone who realizes they need to post more on social media, they needed to understand social media a little bit more. So they're probably going to be wanting content around research and reports, or small business discussions such as webinars or podcasts. That really helps them understand the importance of social media for business. At the consideration stage, the focus here is, well, actually the small business now is defined, well, I now need to post on social media, but I think I need a tool to help me do that. So they are here very actively involved in comparing solutions. So the content at this stage needs to include maybe expert guides. Again, podcasts could be useful here to support that comparison. And then when we get to the decision stage, this is where that small business has shortlisted its vendors. So again, the content here needs to think about how you can help that user and that individual make that decision. So it could be trials, it could be demos, or it could be case studies. I think one of the things that I often get asked by clients and students is, well, how do I know what my customer needs? How do I know what they're searching for? And how do I know what they need across their journey? Well, some really useful keyword research tools and search tools that are available that you can utilize to help you with this. And just some of the ones that I utilize, Ubersuggest is a good one, Google Keyword Planner. Actually, what I've done for a couple of clients I'm working with at the moment is I'm using Google's autocomplete and the search suggest. So when you type in your search, you go to the bottom and there's some other suggestions there, and they're really useful in identifying the kind of questions that our audiences are asking, and also the issues that they have and the pain points, or reframing of those pain points. So those are really useful things to help guide maybe some of the content that your audience might be looking for and some of the challenges that they face right now. Now, as I alluded to before, we can't really talk about content, creating a content strategy and thinking about our audience needs without talking about what's happening right now. Customer needs have drastically changed in the last month from what they were in February, what they were even in January. I mean, I listened to the news, was it yesterday, and Netflix reported an additional 16 million subscribers in the last month alone who want to consume their content. Although actually, quite interestingly, Netflix has a massive content challenge coming up in the second half of the year because there's no filming of any kind of content, and that's going to be a whole headache for broadcasters in the future. I think radio, I think podcasts are going to be the massive winners over the next 6 months, just simply because it's much easier to create radio content at distance than it is to create TV content. That, or we're going to be watching a lot of repeats or low quality TV content. So that's just an aside. But I think the point here is, in a time of crisis, as organisations and as individuals, we want to help in any way we can. But in terms of content marketing, rather than saying, how can we help, we need to focus actually more on what does our audience need from us right now. Now, I've put some examples. There's just 3 very basic examples. I'm hoping you can kind of see them here, because some of these are a little bit small because they've come from social media. But the first example I've got here is BBC Good Food. Now, they are using live broadcasts across social media channels with a range of experts to help their audiences with food-related issues. So you can see, I don't know if you can see on the slide, but Mondays we're talking about leftovers. Thursday, it's all about freezer finds. Friday, it's tinned food. They're using experts and they're rethinking their content based upon what their audience needs are right now, which is, I can't get hold of all the things that I want to. So what can I swap in? How can I make the most of the stuff I've got in the freezer, things I've got in the cupboard? I think they've got one about bakes and desserts. I know they're talking a lot on there about how you can make things without flour, because I don't know if any of you are keen bakers out there, but flour is rarer than rare right now. It's so hard to get hold of. The other example I've got there is Staples. And actually, Staples have apparently increased their advertising during this lockdown period to support and drive consumer demand for home office equipment. And also you'll notice their content has switched probably a little bit away from maybe targeting the small businesses and SMB organisations towards a little bit more to B2C, because they're focusing much more on home working solutions and how they are supporting their customers and a new customer base with home working solutions as well. And the final one, I'm not sure if you've seen this, but it's Greg. So they've got no stores open at all right now, but they still want to engage with their audiences, remind them that the brand is there. And they've done this through DIY, Greg's It Yourself. So they've produced some DIY baking tutorials of how you can make store favourites yourself. And actually, I've seen quite a few other brands do that. I believe Doubletree Hotels have done that with their cookie recipe, apparently. If you go to their hotels in America, you get cookies. And a few other organisations have been doing that too. So just thinking about how they might be adjusting content based upon audience needs. And something that you might want to start thinking about doing is starting to look at, just simply looking at Google searches and auto completes as to what people are looking at right now. Google Trends also is really useful at tracking the trends of what people are searching for. From the reports I've seen, things such as food has gone up massively. Gardening is also a big area that people are now investing their time in. So our audience needs have changed, so we do need to reflect on that as we're putting together or even adjusting our content strategy for these unusual times. So we've identified our purpose and our goals, and we've now thought about our audience and their needs. The next stage is stories. Now, stories are the specific and the distinctive and also valuable ideas that you're going to build your content assets around. And understanding what you're actually after, so your goals and understanding your audiences and why you're trying to reach them, is all going to be meaningless unless you actually clearly identify the specific and the unique value your business can deliver and will deliver in exchange for your audience's trust and support, and ultimately their engagement. So this value here is your story. So this is all about your business's passions and beliefs, what you stand for, your products and services, as well as your own knowledge and expertise. And this is quite a useful slide here. It's just getting you to think a bit about this idea of stories. And stories tend to focus on key areas such as the organisation, products and services, knowledge and expertise. So under the organisation, you could focus some of your stories around the organisation's heritage and values, their corporate responsibility. Even me just mentioning that right now, I'm sure you can think about an organisation that has a story that's linked to its heritage or its corporate responsibility. Similarly, creating stories could be around products and services, so around original ideas and designs. Think about an organisation like Dyson in this instance. It could also focus on the organisation's knowledge and expertise, so perhaps their research and opinions and the research they undertake, the fact that they've got the ability to forecast the future and resources. Many B2B organisations use a lot of that within their own content stories. So as part of your stories, I always recommend to my clients to think about this thing called content pillars. These are essentially key themes of your content that are relevant to your target audience and form the foundation of your strategy. Each pillar of your content then each part of your content then fits under one of these key pillars. And it's kind of almost a way to think again about your stories and bucket them into different sections. So as an organization, you might have 3 or 4 different content pillars. Your stories give you that broader view, but your content pillars almost give you specific themes. But the reason why these content pillars are so valuable and so important part of your content strategy is because of, instead of just, again, going back to my example, instead of just creating content on the fly, again, you know, your managers come up and said to you, I want to produce this blog. So rather than just producing that content on the fly, having those distinct content themes and all these, I don't know, these topics, these buckets, they ensure that you're creating relevant content that will help you formulate your content calendar, which we'll talk a bit more about in a moment, but it also ensures you're covering all the necessary topics that match to your audience needs. It also then supports consistency of messaging within all that content that you're creating. Again, also though, having content pillars, you know, again, it serves as a guide for crafting that specific content to your audience. So you're not ignoring large parts of your audience or ignoring large parts of their needs. It can also help you define the content that helps someone move through the buyer journey. And again, it all helps with our targeting as well. So setting these pillars out can be so important. And also it can really help you with brainstorming. If you have these content pillars in place, it can really help you put down your content pillars on a piece of paper, start brainstorming ideas around your content. It does make that process much easier. And just an example for you. I'm not sure if any of you have heard of this place called Not Another Salon. They're actually a hairdressing salon in London, and they have a massive following on social media. I'm a huge fan of theirs. What they do on Instagram is really very clever. Their Instagram and their approach to Instagram is fantastic, and they are used quite a lot and have been cited quite a lot across social media press, marketing press, as good examples of Instagram. So I don't know, if you're interested in good practice and best practice social media, do go and have a look at their Instagram because it's really fantastic. But what I wanted to show you here in this example was how Not Another Salon really focuses on their content pillars. Really a bit about them though. They're not a normal salon, as their name suggests. Their approach goes against what most hairdressers and salons present on social media. So rather than pictures on a plain background, they've got a very vivid kind of background, which you can see in the example makeovers image there. Very vivid background. You've got a glimpse of how the salon is, what it's like to work there, what the people actually do. I think also what's really important about Not Another Salon is they are trying to use content to tackle issues that social media has created as well, especially for the hairdressing industry. There's a lot of unrealistic expectations within the hairdressing industry from clients. So a lot of what they do is client education around what the process the process that people have to go under to achieve those wonderful hair colorings, which you can see here, how long it actually takes, but also the price. They've got this whole program around price transparency. Again, sorry, gentlemen, you might not know this, but actually women seem to want to have, and men maybe to a certain extent, wonderful haircuts, but they don't want to pay for it. They don't seem to understand the cost of running a salon. The cost of someone being in a chair. So for example, that example makeover picture there, that person could be there for 4 to 6 hours. The cost of someone being in the chair, the cost of the materials, and what they're trying to do in their social media is bring this across. So going back to my point about content pillars, if you review their content, you can see at least 3 key areas which they highlight. Firstly, staff stories. There's a lot of things about their staff within their Instagram feed, and that's probably their biggest social media platform. So this, as you can see there, that's actually owner with her child. There's lots of videos and behind the scenes where you have almost like a Q&A with one of the members of staff who do a lot on their Instagram stories. Obviously, a lot of example makeovers as well. And importantly, another pillar is that client education, getting clients to understand the process that you have to go through to get the results that you see on social media. But also, you can imagine right now, things have massively changed for Not Another Salon. They've closed their doors during lockdown because they've had to, but they are still posting on social media. And actually, their content pillars have slightly adjusted, but they still are very similar. You can see here they've got staff stories. That's actually of one of their staff members dancing on their balcony, which is quite amusing. They've also got some service updates, slight change compared to the makeovers. They're still sharing some makeovers, but they've obviously got some messaging around if you've booked with them and about priority booking. But one really interesting one is they've still got the client education, and they've got this in terms of the hashtag Wait For Us. And this is all about getting clients to understand the issues of trying to bleach their hair themselves. I am rapidly running into that issue where my roots are going to be extremely long soon, and I'm getting very frustrated. But a lot of their content is around wait for us, wait for your hairdresser. If you bleach your hair yourself, it's likely to, this is what's likely to happen. And so they're focusing quite a lot on that at the moment. So you can see the content pillars are kind of still there, but the messaging has slightly changed to work with the times that we're living in. Oh, sorry, I'm having some problems. There we go. Right, there we go. Okay. So now we've thought about our story and our pillars, as the key part of our content strategy now, and this is often the thing that people focus on first, which is actually one of the things that you need to focus on almost towards the end of your strategy process, is what content formats are we actually going to create? But actually, before we look at the formats themselves, we do need to think about that all content isn't made equal, and it's going to vary in weight. We've got lightweight and heavyweight content, and content does therefore differ in terms of its mass and also the thought that's required to be put into content marketing and creating that content marketing. So it's really important as a business that you have a mixture of both heavyweight and lightweight content. Heavyweight content, as it suggests here, or strategic content, as I've listed it as well, is major pieces of content. So strategic content, they're a major part of your marketing efforts to position your organization, and they need to be original and also have enduring freshness. So it's often that they're a longer lasting piece, not so much of the time, and more an ebook, for example, a white paper or infographic that has longevity. It needs to be an integral part of your marketing plan, marketing messages. This is obviously then compared to tactical content, which is frequent, it's less demanding. It's all about interacting with your customers, interacting with your fans on social media, things like blog posts, podcasts, memes, etc. As I'm sure you'll be aware, heavyweight content takes a lot longer to produce. It's more resource intensive, so it's not something that's produced regularly compared to lightweight content. But you'll also notice here that both of these types need to work together, and they'll support each other. So you might create your white paper or your infographic or your ebook, but you might have a blog post about that. You might have a webinar to support that. You'll probably have some social media posts to support that as well. So all of these types will work together, but it's just important to think about the different types of content and really just ensuring you've not got too much heavyweight content and not too much lightweight content. You do need a mixture of both. In terms of actually the formats of content you're going to put together as part of your strategy, it's really going to depend on your goals, your audience, your stories, and what you need to get across in your customer journey, etc., etc. I'll talk a bit more about that in a minute, but I find this really useful. I'm hoping you can kind of see this from Smart Insights. It's usually in a colourful format, but the content marketing matrix is super helpful because it looks at some of the content options available for both B2B and B2C organisations. And it maps the different content formats against the customer purchase intent. So if you look along the bottom axis there, you've got awareness through to purchase. So the stage there, awareness, is all about educating the customer through to convincing them at the purchase stage. You'll also see that the decision style is also on the axis, on the vertical axis, which goes from rational to emotional. So it then helps us plot what the best content types could be based upon whether we're looking to educate someone who's got a more emotional decision style. So usually I'd say emotional is more B2C and rational is more B2B. So again, you can see how the different content types will work depending on what your audience needs are, and also where they are in their journey, and also where they are in terms of the decision style they need to make. So you've got either educate, convince, entertain, or inspire, and the different content formats there. So I find this, again, super helpful, just almost as something to reference back to when I'm thinking about content formats based upon the wider content needs of the organisation. So in terms of choosing content formats, just some things we need to think about when we're choosing the most appropriate content format. As we know, it needs to be aligned to our marketing objectives, our organisation's overall goals and situation, as we've already detailed before. It's essential we also think about our target audience and that we are thinking about the different customer personas the organisation is trying to aim that content at. We need to make sure we're thinking about the audience goals, the devices, the timings that they need. We also need to make sure we're thinking about what our competitors are doing. We don't operate in a vacuum. It's really important that as marketers, we are looking at all the content our competitors are creating. So you should be signing up to all their emails. You should be their fans on Facebook. You should be following them across Instagram and Twitter, or have them in a Twitter list. You need to make sure you're seeing what content your competitor organisations are producing, and making sure that you're aligned with that, or you're not doing something too similar. There are a couple of other things to think about when choosing formatting or different content formats. And one major one is obviously organisation resources, skills, and budget. We all don't work for large, organisations with huge budgets. We are going to be working on budgets. So we need to make sure the content formats we're thinking about fit within that budget. We might not have budgets for massive ebooks, but we might have a budget for perhaps putting together a smaller white paper. We might not have the skills to create video content. The one thing I will say, though, is producing content has got a lot easier. There's lots of free tools out there now. So imagery from Canva, for example, making videos from things like Animoto or Lumen 5. All of these tools enable you to make often content, such as video content, for free or for a very low cost. So it's well worth investigating the different tools available, because they can really help, especially small organisations who don't have the resources or massive resources to produce that content. And finally, one other thing I always think about is looking at past performance of content. So if you've got a bank of content, look at what's working or what's worked in the past, what has delivered you, whatever your goals might be. And we'll talk a bit more about measurement in a moment, but what has delivered what you wanted it to deliver, because that will also help you determine your future content formats as well. We're now looking at the process element of our content sort of strategy framework. So we've got our goals, we've identified our audience, we've looked at our stories and themes, our content formats, but also we need to think now about the operations side of things. Content marketing is an ongoing operation, so it needs to be properly managed. The process itself simply details who does what and when, what content is published, when is it published, what channels are also then used to distribute it. And this process element will also encompass content guidelines. And so something often organisations tend to forget about. This is your Bible of, sort of your Bible around content production. And it details your editorial style, brand voice, other brand requirements. It could include, your brand guidelines as well within that. Do think about that Bible, for your content marketing strategy. Even if it's, not necessarily a huge document, it can still be very valuable, especially when you've got new people starting in your organisation and juniors starting in your organisation. It gives them an idea of the style and the content that you produce. And part of our process and the process stage is content calendars. I'm hoping those of you that are part of marketing activities do have a content calendar, but it's because it's a key part of that process stage. It's a key part of managing our content marketing efforts and therefore part of our content strategy. There's a couple here. I'm hoping you can just about see them. And what you'll notice here is I've put two different ones together. One's a very detailed one, which looks at posting throughout the day. So I think they've got like 7 or 8 tweets throughout the day, and 2 Facebook posts, 2 Instagram posts, etc. And it's very, very detailed. But some of you may not need that level of detail. You might not be scheduling that much content. So there's the other one there on the left-hand side is slightly more of a calendar which details what's happening when, and also when certain posts are needed. So you know, there's lots of examples out there. You can put them in the simple Excel spreadsheet like here. You can use tools like CoSchedule, but many organizations will tend to plot almost like a year as an overview, so some of the key themes and key events across the year, and then 30 to 90 days in much more detail. We do need to think about within here though, within our content calendar, sort of different, and there's sort of 3 specific types of content that we'll probably be sharing. Firstly, evergreen content. So this can be used at any moment in time. It's not time sensitive. So even right now, in these unprecedented times, there still be content that your organization can share that's relevant. How you frame that, maybe in terms of how you share it on social media channels, might be slightly different. So a good example here could be a fashion retailer. They might have a blog post about what to consider when selecting your summer jacket. That's still going to be relevant right now, although we might not be going out so much. So you might have to slightly change that framing of that there. We also have planned content. So this would be scheduled events in the company's calendar, or it could be in the overall country's calendar. So I'm thinking here about Mother's Day, Father's Day, Easter, etc. But also the organization's calendar itself. It could be that there's a new Microsoft product launch, and therefore you'd need to do some activity around that. That's if that's obviously what your business was doing. And finally, we've got topical aspects. So these are newsworthy items. So these aren't things that we can prepare for in advance. They need to be sort of scheduled and be responded to as they occur. So these are going to be your breaking news stories. They're going to be your crisis or anything like that that you need to do. And probably a lot of you are experiencing this right now, that really your content schedule has really been ripped up for what you were planning for the next few months. So you're probably living slightly day to day right now. I certainly know I am with my client. Lots of things are changing quite, everything's very fluid, and we can't really plan that far in advance because the things we have planned then change. So topical is probably something you are, you're probably dealing with quite a lot right now. So content calendars, very important part of our process element of our content strategy. I also thought it's important here to talk about content hubs, because these are the central location that can be used for all your organization's content. So they play a very important role in your content strategy because they house all of your evergreen content. And it could be a website, it could be your blog, but usually it's a website, or maybe slightly one that's bigger than a blog. I think there's some questions in the chat there. I'm just checking something here. Apologies. Oh, I can't see that. I'll get that up in a minute. But this example here is actually Think with Google that you can see on my screen. And Think with Google is a great example of a content hub because it enables users to go to one central location to access all of their thought leadership pieces. All their communications, their emails and whatever else they do points to those pages on that hub as well. They do have a huge benefit to organizations as well. They provide authority. You've got a place where all your published and trustworthy content, it's designed really to show that you are a thought leader in your area. It provides visibility, it provides traffic. It's really good, obviously, for search engine purposes as well. It can drive engagement, it can drive leads as well for your organization, and provide marketing insights because obviously you can get detailed analytics reports too. There's lots of benefits of having a content hub as part of your strategy. Right, so the final stage though of our content strategy, what we have to think about is measurement. And Deming once said, "What you can't manage, what you don't measure." So just like any marketing activity, our content efforts, our content strategy, we need to measure it to see whether we're actually achieving our goals or not. And really what you measure here will really depend on your objectives and goals. So what your KPIs are really depends on what your goals are, whether it's brand awareness, engagement, lead generation, or sales. But you need to think about also not just key performance indicators directly related to your objectives, but you also need to think about wider metrics which can help measure the performance of your content, which I've got here. So content discovery, content engagement, then ultimately the conversion, which you're probably trying to push, so the see, think and do. Because not all content's going to ultimately deliver on your goals, but they might support the achievement of these. So if we think about maybe a blog post about an event webinar, which also might be supported by a paid social media post, we're going to need to change the metrics for the blog post probably and the paid social media, because they might not ultimately deliver the sales that we're hoping for from the webinar, but they will certainly help us gain leads for that, and also engagement with the brand too. One thing I do want to mention before I finish talking about measurement is vanity metrics. Vanity metrics, they're really easy to track, but they really rarely give you any insightful information. Vanity metrics are social media followers, website traffic, really not going to tell you very much. You know, they're kind of helpful to see trends maybe, but they don't tell us anything about how our content's performing, and they're rarely insightful, independent of other data. So try and stay away from vanity metrics when you're looking at measuring your content. So that's all I wanted to discuss with you today. So I do hope you found that interesting. I'm trying to play around with, there we go. Oh, I'm so sorry, I've missed some of your comments. Someone's asking if we have something that is a program primarily focused on content marketing. We do. We have a short course in content marketing. If you want to get in touch with us, please do. I think Glenn Bryant, hello Glenn, is asking what would you recommend for a content calendar. I just use a good old-fashioned Excel spreadsheet because I find that works best for me and it gives me the visibility I need. There's a couple of examples that you can download from places like HubSpot, which give you the framework and then you can kind of adapt it to yourself. Asana is, someone was saying, Glenn, there are online tools. I have to be honest, I still do love an Excel spreadsheet just because it gives me good visibility on things. Are you able to share these slides? Thank you very much. If you email, I should have put that. I will put. Next time I'll put a link on there. But if you email inquiries@oxfordpeg.com, we can send you a copy of the slides as well. Anyone else have questions? I'm happy to take any questions you've got. You can unmute yourself and chat to me if you want. Oh, someone's given me their email address privately. That's fine. I can send that to you. Was that you wanted the interest in the course, weren't you? That was it. Sorry. Yeah. Right. I need to find somewhere to put that. Oh no, clicking too many things. Oh, that's great. I'm glad you found it a good refresher.
Hello, Red. Could I ask something?
Oh, hello, Glenn. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you.
Excellent.
Good.
Sorry, yeah, I know Glenn. Honestly, please do ask a question.
Yeah, what's good examples then for vanity metrics to be wary of?
Yeah, your favourites.
What you said.
Your favourites here. Your favourites definitely here are followers. Social media followers are a big vanity metrics. I mean, they tell you nothing. Especially now with the algorithms. So, you know, I've got clients who've got 20,000 followers on Facebook, but if you do an organic post, it only reaches, 200 people at the absolute most. So yeah. It looks very good that you've got excellent reach on social media, but no, you haven't really, because you can't actually engage with them unless you pay for it.
Yeah. No, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you, Abigail. I just got your message there as well. Thank you, Laura, as well. I'm glad you found this useful. Thank you. Yeah, Laura, I got your email as well. Anyone else have any questions? Thank you, Barry. I'm in the US. Do you offer any certification courses in digital marketing online? Yes, we do, Heather. All of our courses are available online and virtually. If you send me a message privately now with your email address, I can get someone to drop you an email with a bit more information about what we offer. Thank you, Emma, for recommending that. Oh, hello, Eva. Nice to see you too. Eva, I will send you a message. I think I've still got your email address. If not, you've got mine. Drop me an email. Do you have any suggestions about how to convince the internal teams about the importance of creating personas? So I think really it's down to how you can convince them. But I think really going back to some of the things that I was suggesting, it's directionless. Unless you know who you're creating and what, especially even with marketing, if you don't know who you're targeting, you could be developing something and designing something and trying to target the wrong people, or you're missing the mark with your messaging, especially if you don't know their needs and wants or what they need in terms of their marketing, their content needs, or what they might need in terms of what their pain points are. You're really wasting your time. Effectively. So I think these are the kind of things you need to go and talk to your internal team. And I do realise it is a challenge. Yeah, I've got some more people who want the slides. Fabulous. Thank you, James. I'm glad you found that useful as well. I think someone asked me about what to track rather than vanity metrics. Well, so let's say we track, rather than tracking followers, we track engagement on social media. Rather than tracking website traffic, we track something else that's more useful, like conversion rate or conversion volumes. I work for an employer brand, so all of my content is around people. Any other ideas in this area? I'm not sure what you mean, what kind of ideas you're hoping for. I'm just seeing if I've missed anyone else's email here. No, I think I've got them all there. Lovely. Oh, I'm glad you've all found this useful. I'm just copying and pasting some bits here, sorry. Any more questions? Keep putting questions in the chat area as well if you've got other questions. I'm really pleased you've all enjoyed this. Thank you, Vicky. Catherine, I don't know if you've got my email, but I'm Red, by the way, red@oxfordpeg.com, so you can always drop me an email as well, if that works for you. Someone's asking me what's the difference between integrated marketing from content marketing. Well, integrated marketing is about getting all of your tools and techniques and your marketing activities all working together in a consistent, integrated way. So we've got one message that we're using across all of our different channels. There's almost something in the middle a story that combines all of these together. So I can kind of understand what you're thinking around the difference between content and integrated marketing, because it's kind of a similar thing. Our content is collected by glue, which is our stories, and so is our integrated marketing. But integrated marketing is just obviously pulling in more of our different tools and techniques. Is probably a wider approach to take. Content marketing and marketing of contents, what is the difference? Not sure what you mean there. Do you mean, I think what you might mean there is content marketing, obviously the approach of producing content and then and putting that together and marketing of that. And then I think you're looking at the distribution of content there and what channels you're using. How do you think the digital transformation required to be in the digital race? Not sure what you mean there. Do you mean in terms of how we need to change in terms of digital marketing, or how digital is going to change, or how we're going to transform because of COVID-19? I don't think I really know the answer right now as how this is all going to change. I don't know. I don't think anyone knows how this is going to play out. And anyone that tells you they think they do is probably lying, because none of us as marketers know how this is going to play out. And it's changing day by day. All we know is, as businesses, we have to be ready and set up digitally to survive. The one thing I'm going to say, actually, which I thought was absolutely fascinating and encapsulated something so neatly, was the picture, an article from the BBC about Primark. Primark went from 650 million sales to nothing. Primark has always shunned away from e-commerce. They are now, all their stores are now shut. They now have nothing, they're not selling anything, and they have no online proposition. So if that wasn't a reason, or to demonstrate a reason to have an e-commerce store, I don't know what is. So it's quite an interesting thing. I don't know if that really answers your question, but I've done my best. Any other questions for me? Oh, I'm loving the person that's got the lakes as a background there. Very nice. My email is red@oxfordpeg.com. So red as in the colour at oxfordpeg.com. You can all email me, that's fine. Right, well, if there aren't any more questions, I'll bid you a very good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been lovely to see so many of you here, see a few of you on the video as well, and I really do hope you've enjoyed it. I will send slides to those of you that ask. You can email me and ask for the slides. We are doing a recording. What I'll also do is pop the slides onto the blog post that you signed up on as well, so that's probably going to be an easier thing for me to do. So, thank you, and don't forget, next Thursday, it's Red with 1D. Red with 1D, someone's asking about my email address. Next Thursday is the next Lockdown Lunch and Learn. You can register in the link on our blog, which is blog.oxfordcollegeofmarketing.com. I know many of you have signed up already, so do try and join us then. If there aren't any more questions, I'll bid you a lovely afternoon, and thank you so much for joining me, and enjoy the sunshine, those of you that have it. Thanks everyone, bye, give us all a wave.